Hey guys, and welcome to tonight's episode of CrohnsCast. Tonight we're sitting down with Elizabeth, who is in the RAF, and she's going to talk to us about her journey. So without further ado, let's bring Elizabeth into the room. Hi Elizabeth. So for those tuning in, can you just explain a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get stuck into some really interesting questions and hearing about your story.
Oh. Yeah, of course. So hi everyone. My name is Elizabeth. I'm in the Royal Air Force. I have been for 20 years now. It seems so long when I say that. I'm originally from Scotland, but living down in High Wycombe at the minute. I don't know what else you want me to say. Sorry.
I was going to say High Wycombe is a beautiful part of the world.
Oh, High Wycombe's absolutely lovely. Yeah, I only recently moved down here actually last July, and yeah, I'm loving it. God, I hate introductions. Ask me some questions.
Well, no, I was just going to say, anytime I've been at High Wycombe, I've really enjoyed myself. It is a really beautiful part of the world, and I think that's one of the few things that's really beneficial about the military. Like we just moved from South Wales, around St Athan to the Cotswolds, and it's like you couldn't ask for a nicer place to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think throughout the whole of my career. I'm sorry.
Yeah, throughout the whole of your career, you probably have a wonderful places being the RAF.
Oh wow, beautiful places. Yeah, beautiful.
So for the people tuning in, let's talk about your life before your diagnosis. So what was Elizabeth up to? Like, when did you join the RAF? And sort of, was there anything in that period that might have been an indication that maybe you had IBD earlier or anything like that? Who was Elizabeth before diagnosis?
Before, yeah. So, well, gosh, I joined the military when I was 16 years old. You know, just I was still a child, and I was never ill. I had my appendix out in 2012, but apart from that, you know, and well, a few car crashes along the way. But in terms of illness, there was nothing ever wrong with me. You know, I would get the odd cold or something like that, but you know, in terms of actually a medicated illness, there was nothing ever wrong with me. I think maybe kind of early to mid 20s, I might have struggled with a bit of constipation, but like it would never have given me any kind of cramps or any kind of rectal bleeding or any sickness or pain. And it wasn't until I was like 32, 33, when that was 2018, yeah, until I became symptomatic. And you know, all of my life I've been active, and when I say active, I mean measure activity. You know, running most days, cycling, swimming most days, always doing something, traveling. I mean, you'll know yourself in the military, deployments, exercises. So yeah, just like really, really active lifestyle, and no sign of an illness until I became symptomatic.
So when was it you actually started to become symptomatic?
So it was January 2018. It started off with bleeding, a lot of blood, and you know, I thought I had piles. I thought I had hemorrhoids. I actually went to the doctor and said, look, is this normal? I thought it was maybe a protein supplement that I was taking for the training that I was doing at the time. They couldn't find anything. My bloods were normal. I all of a sudden stopped being as constipated as maybe I once was. But I mean, nothing horrific. It was just probably like a normal person. So like not even any kind of like runny stools or urgency at that point. It was my first indication that I was ill was seeing blood, which was clearly quite well, concerning, let's say. But I was a little bit silly.
What was going through your mind at that time? What was going through your mind when you started seeing these things happening? Were you concerned, or was this something you were ashamed of, or like how did you manage that period?
I was just in absolutely total denial, and I thought, oh well, then it's just a bit of blood, it's fine. I'm still working, I'm still active, I'm still going to the gym every day, I'm still running. I was probably running like faster than I'd ever run in all my life. I don't know if the Wrekin, the hill in Shropshire. I don't know if like literally like flying up and down that, and I was probably the fittest I'd been. So I was in absolute denial, and and then I thought, okay then, if it's like blood and pain, then I'll go back to the doctors, or if it's blood and sickness, I'll go to the doctors, or if it's cramp and like severe diarrhea, I'll go back to the doctors. It was always like I kept on setting these like boundaries for myself, and
it's
each
funny,
time
it's so common that people do that as well.
Terrible. And then it literally got to the stage where I said to myself, well, okay, then I haven't collapsed yet, and by I got to that severe stage, I was going to the toilet 15 to 20 times a day, and it wasn't even as if it was waste, it was just watery blood, like congealed horrible blood, and the cramps and the pains and the urgency. I practically became incontinent. But I still said to myself, oh, don't worry, you haven't collapsed yet. You're still going to work and you're still being a human being. So yeah, it's a bit silly when you look back on it now, obviously. Yeah.
But it's like I said, it's a very difficult time, and most people, I think, would struggle at that point, or admit to struggling at that point, to really identifying the severeness of those symptoms that you're experiencing. And we try to gloss things over a lot, particularly when it's scary and something that maybe would be considered to be a taboo personally. I know from my own history that I tried to hide my disease for about 10 years. Medically I couldn't, but I wouldn't tell anybody or talk to anybody about it. I'm not sure if it was shame, but definitely there was an embarrassment factor. I didn't want to feel people would think that I was weak or whatever, and through that time I managed to be medically fit enough to deploy on a number of occasions, medically fit enough to complete PTI courses and transfer into the PT Corps.
Great.
So yeah, it's like all those things you're still able to do quite a lot, but yeah, the symptoms in themselves, particularly at early onset, like so that back in 2002, I didn't go to the doctor until I had no option but to go to the doctor, and so you're not alone in that one. You're definitely not alone.
No, I had friends literally dragging me to the hospital, and I just didn't want to go. And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want to admit to it, and I didn't want to admit to being, I don't know, broken maybe. Yeah.
And that's another big thing as well. Like, exactly those words carry a huge weight. Like, so for you, like, what were you going through emotionally at the time, whilst you were dealing with something that you didn't know was going on?
Gosh, I'm emotionally, like one aspect of me became really quite numb to it all, because if I'd acknowledged it, then like I think I would have just broken. So I just tried to keep my mind focused on what I was achieving and what I was still able to do, instead of focusing on my limitations. And I think I became quite resilient to breaking down or being emotional, because I hadn't acknowledged it. But it was certainly a different case once I was diagnosed, and once I went down all of the hospital admissions. And once I was in hospital and I couldn't function anymore, or I couldn't function to the level that I was functioning previously. And as each medication failed, and then I was put onto different medications and they would fail, and then I would be back in hospital, and then I was on infusions, and but I did struggle emotionally, like kind of further on down the line, because there was a real problem that I had to address, and there was a real problem that was fundamentally changing my ability to lead the life that I was leading. And also, that I was embarrassed. I was having accidents, and I was always running off to the toilet, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it, and I didn't want to talk to anybody about it, and I didn't want anybody to know anything. And I used to get, when I was having really bad flares, then the inflammation in my joints, my wrists, my knees, my ankles, but it was sore to even walk sometimes when I was really poorly. So that I'm not too sure if I got depressed from it. I mean, maybe there was a certain level of sadness. So I mean, obviously it did affect me emotionally, but I refused to allow it to affect me, like, emotionally, to the breaking point, because I had too much to do. I had too much to look forward to. Like, I love life and I love doing stuff. So I didn't let it break me emotionally, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. So what point then were you at where it drove you to then seek medical attention? Because there's a lot of things stacking there, but at what point was it like, right, I've reached that threshold and now I'm going to seek medical help? What was that for you?
I ended up in accident and emergency with a partial prolapse, and that was because my rectum was so badly inflamed, and I was just losing so much blood. I wasn't stopping bleeding, and like that was I went to accident emergency and kind of said help. And then I saw
that's really serious. That is something.
And I was just I didn't want to admit that I was ill. I really didn't, and I thought my body was strong enough to fight anything. I thought, oh, don't worry, Elizabeth, just change your diet, add biocultures into your gut, take this supplement, remove sugars, go on a low FODMAP diet, and I'd make your own kefir. Gosh, I tried so many different things with food. I think on reflection, at the time of diagnosis and being poorly, I was going through a few changes. I had a relationship change and had a professional change, and maybe there was a lot of stress going on in my life. Nobody likes to say that they're stressed, but gosh, like, I'm an adult and I can reflect on things. So maybe like stress was a little bit of a trigger to it. So I tried to balance myself as a person so that I wasn't as stressed, and I tried to be, I tried to lead a better lifestyle. But at the end of the day, I had a disease that was eroding my intestines away. I don't think any lifestyle change, when it's got to that stage of a disease, that it's going to cure you. And I know there's so many advocates out there that change your diet and it'll cure you, and do this. And gosh, if I had one other person tell me to do yoga and go and relax, it'll cure you, I think I would have screamed.
But it's so true. It is so true. There is a lot of stuff out there, particularly now on social media, where you really got to question the sources, because there's one bloke who I kind of respect, who's in that field, and I've had him on the show, and
Yeah,
he doesn't overly prescribe that he's cured it. Whenever you chat to him,
okay.
he admits he is in remission.
Yeah.
He's kind of gone like kind of vegan sort of thing, but there are a lot of people out there that I feel are very dubiously claiming that they've cured themselves.
Cure themselves. You may have gone into remission and you may have supported your body whilst it is in a period of calmness, but essentially when you're in a flare-up and your body it's like friendly forces, it's just attacking itself. And it is, for me, you know, I was going to the toilet and I would literally see tissue, like bits of tissue and blood, congealed blood, that food wasn't going to help me at that stage.
So we've had our diagnosis, and
Yeah.
you know, you then, how many years was it between that being diagnosed before it became clear that you needed surgery?
So I was diagnosed in the May 18, and then by the September, I had another period. I had on and off bouts of poorliness, but from the May until the September I was in hospital for 3 weeks, and the consultant, you know, she kind of looked me in the eye and she said that we need to talk about surgery. And oh my goodness me, that was like, I don't know if it was the end of the world. Yeah. It was just like, what are you talking about? Hang on a minute. No, we're not even talking about it. You know, I was like, nope. And goodness me, my consultant, you know, she's been in her field for, I think, just over 30 years, you know, and she is so, she's been an inspiration to me, and she was so patient and so calm with me. But you know, every single time that I ended up in hospital, or every single follow-up appointment, you know, she would look at me and she said, "Look, Elizabeth, we need to talk about surgery." In the September, so in the May, when I was diagnosed, I was got prednisolone. So I was put onto a very, very high steroid, oral steroid. And that sent me loopy, and I didn't get on with prednisolone at all. And by the September, I was put straight on to infliximab infusions. Infliximab I was only partially responsive. So after, I think, was that about 2 months, September? Yeah, by December, I was on a different infusion called vedolizumab. And then December was all right. January was okay. And come February, March again, they decided that I wasn't responsive to the vedolizumab, and then I was put onto a medical trial. I was really lucky. I was fortunate to try the first oral biologic. So I was on, which is called, what's it called? Tofacitinib? Yeah, tofacitinib. And I was on that.
It's going to have at least 3 syllables.
Yeah, I know. All these really long ones. And unfortunately, part of that medical trial, they actually had people die on it from I can never say it. Maybe you can say it. Oh, help me out. When you've got a pulmonary embolism, that's it. Thanks. So yes, so I was taken off of the tofacitinib immediately, and I was only off that for a week and a half, and I was rushed in for my first surgery. Yeah.
I mean, that's a short turnaround. But you were mentioning before that you were very hesitant about the surgery. So we had that bombshell moment. But what was going through your life at the time? Where were you in your life? You know, was there what goals were you trying to achieve, or was there delays that you put in place?
Yeah, very much so. So as I said, from the September, my surgeon was talking to me about surgery, and I was just no, definitely not. And then as I started to kind of like go down, as time passed, I thought to myself, oh, okay, then maybe I am going to need surgery. But hang on a minute, Elizabeth, we're going to change jobs. We're stupidly going to do an Ironman, and we're going to focus on the Ironman, and you're going to train, and that's going to become your focus, and you're going to get stronger, and you're going to get fitter, and you're going to be more resilient. Yeah. So, and then I would talk to my consultant and say, right, okay, yeah, I'll have surgery after I've been to Ironman Vichy. And she was in despair. She was in absolute despair.
That's brilliant. But again, it's one of those things like, you know, facing surgery, particularly when it's something that we haven't expected to face in our life. You know, you've been
There's
diagnosed. Yeah, diagnosed fairly late in life, and to be told, you know, right, we need to cut this out of you. It's a very scary prospect, and it's something I think that most people try to avoid. I mean, I mentioned to you before that there are countless people out there in the world. They're not wrong, but are avoiding surgery because they would rather live their life on large doses of prescriptions because of the fear of what having that surgery could be or would do to their life. Like having an ostomy bag seems to be that step too far for their own personal health. So you're not alone in creating those delays. I'd be interested in how was your Ironman training going?
I loved it. I like, funny enough, swimming didn't affect me, and you know, I could go for hours on the bike, and I could happily get up. You know, in the morning, I was spending a couple of hours in the pool in the morning. Well, by the end time I was poorly, it was like I was up to about an hour 40 3 times a week, and then an hour every other day. So you know, my swimming was fine. It didn't irritate me whatsoever. My cycling wasn't too bad, but I couldn't eat or drink anything beforehand, and I couldn't eat anything during my cycling. But my running, oh, I don't know. I don't even know why I put myself through it. You know, I was running with like tissue stuffed down my sleeves because, you know, I was going to have accidents, and I was up in Northumberland at the time. So, you know, I was running stupidly like late at night, so nobody would see me with head torches, and you know, I would be diving into bushes, doing what you do.
Yeah, no, definitely running is a search. I'm at, like, I can remember being on exercises and going into the start of a flare and just being on random patrols and having to stop the patrol to break track and go in.
Yeah.
Be
go
not
and
in a good
do what you
place.
need to do. No.
Yeah, so completely with you, but also as well, swimming. I did find swimming throughout my entire history as being very relaxed. So if I was in flare or feeling feeling fatigue, for want of a better word.
Fatigue. Yeah. Just a
being
bit
in
flat.
the pool. Yeah, being in the pool. I could always be in a pool, and after a few minutes, I'd be able to sort of have a moderate session, maybe not a hard session.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, but you can keep on ticking over.
Yeah, definitely. So what then? So what was the crisis point where you went, right? Okay, surgery's happening. Was it a decision that you had, or was the decision taken away?
The decision was taken away from me. So the oral medication that I mentioned, tofacitinib, the medical trial, that was that was my last chance saloon. Like, and you know, my consultant made that exceptionally clear to me, saying that if this doesn't work, that you're going to die if you don't have surgery. And by that point, she'd convinced me to already talk to a surgeon. So you know, and I think that really helped, because you know, the first surgeon that I had, she was lovely. So I'd already like formed those connections with who was potentially going to do this surgery that I was in total denial about. So by the time that I was taken into hospital, under like emergency situation, you know, I was just, oh gosh, I think I was just so ill, and I was just so exhausted, and I knew that I didn't have another option, because the lining had, so there was areas where it had, I went in and I had my scans, and they were just like, we're operating like now, because it just shown so much inflammation, so much like dark thin tissue or whatever. They just said, look, you have no choice. Yeah, so I think by that point I was just, oh, okay then. I don't want to die. Yeah.
It's very scary, very scary. What was your
Very
mindset going
scary.
into that? Because having the decision, sometimes the decision being removed from you can feel like a blessing, like a weight lifted. Sometimes it can feel very oppressive. So what was your mindset going into that theatre before the anaesthetist gave you that magic countdown from 10?
Do you know what? I think I was actually relieved. I was so relieved. God, I'm going to get emotional. I was so relieved that all of the hassle and all of the back and forward to hospital, and all of the hospital admissions, and all of the accidents that I was having, and all of the pain, and you know, I was stages that I was like, I couldn't even walk to my bathroom. You know, I was crawling to my bathroom, and then I was lying on bathroom floors being sick, and it was awful. So I think by the time surgery came, there was a sense of relief. There really was a sense of relief. And looking back now, would I have wanted to continue with infusions and continue with, you know, I was on like the biological infusions, I was on iron infusions, I was on potassium infusions, like I was at the hospital like every second week for all of these different treatments, and you know, back and forward, and it just became so consuming that by the time I had surgery, as I was going into surgery, I was like, okay then, let's do this. There was a lot of complications with that surgery though, so I mean, I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks after that first surgery. I was really
comfortable talking about them?
Yeah, pardon me, sorry.
Are you comfortable to talk about the complications, or is that something you're not happy?
Yeah. No. I'm happy to talk about anything. There was when they removed my intestine, there was a lot of scar tissue that they, I don't know, that they couldn't, or is it called lesions? And then there was a lot of bleeding, and they couldn't like stop the bleeding. And I ended up, I think the surgery should have taken, I think my mum expected it, or she was told that it was going to take like 4 hours or 4.5 hours or something, and I was ended up in there for 9 hours. You know, and my blood pressure like plummeted, and you know, my essentially they told me that everything just shut down, and they couldn't get things to like work again. And when I woke up after, I was I mean, gosh, it was like two and a half days after that I actually realised what was going on, and then I was in Elias, and that was just horrific. I probably, it was, yeah, that was from that surgery, and the memory that I've got in my head just now. That was, I wanted to die. I was in so much pain. I was exhausted. I couldn't, like, I had tubes everywhere. I had this, my bag leaked, and I didn't know what was going on. It was the first time that I'd seen it, or I'd touched it, or I'd felt it. And all I wanted to, and I mean, this is a few days after, like, all I wanted to do was go to the toilet. I just had this urge to go to the toilet, and like, the nurse just kept on saying to me, "Don't be ridiculous. You can't go to the toilet." And yeah, I was done, and I literally just, I wanted to die for that period, that 24-hour period, that I was just, my mind was blown. I just didn't want to cope with it at all. And that's, and looking back on that now, it's actually really hard, because, you know, like, I've got so much to live for, you know, and I'm like so positive with a lot of things, and I'll deal with a lot of things, but just after that surgery, and after being ill for so long and having to deal with it, I think, and, you know, hiding it and dealing with it myself, and being in so much pain, and just being absolutely exhausted. Yeah, I wanted everything to end. That's quite shocking when I admit that. I probably haven't admitted that to anybody. Yeah.
I mean, that's a very big a set of emotions to have gone through in such a short space of time again. You know, it's a very real set of feelings. You know, you've done something, you've committed to an action that in your mind is going to save me, make me feel better, allow me to live my life, and all of a sudden you've committed, and now you're stuck in a hospital bed feeling the worst you've ever felt. And I'll be honest with you, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
And I was in a similar, like, I don't think I was quite as down that path as what you're describing, but I definitely had some very, very emotionally low moments in the period of time immediately post surgery while still in hospital, to the point where I'm like, just really tearful. Like, I don't know if it happened to you. Obviously, you had a lot more complications going on, but did you have a stall at the time while you were in hospital, where your intestines would stop and you couldn't, so you'd have to have an IG tube and things like that?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, I beg for the IG tube. after every surgery. Yeah, I've had the IG tube, because it's a relief. But then having that stuck up you and not being able to, you know, a nurse coming around and aspirating all of this fluid out of you, and you're thinking, well, why isn't my body, like, working properly? Yes, sorry. I did experience that too.
Yeah, it's crazy that you need to have that in there, but like, just having that happening is enough. It was enough to send me over the edge into a real emotional spiral, I guess, like the point where I was like messaging people that I really respected in my life, like my old RSM, and going, like, it was just weird, weird messages. I could blame the anesthetic and stuff coursing through me to be thrown out of whack or whatever. But yeah, it's a very emotional time. And I think lying there on the hospital bed, essentially losing all of your dependence and being
Yeah.
completely dependent at that point on
Yeah.
healthcare professionals, particularly when you're a
Yeah.
very dependent woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
This ticket that was meant to help you is now in your eyes hindering you, and you know there doesn't seem to be a way out from that. There really doesn't.
No.
So
No.
I totally get it. Totally get it. So what we've started on this process. So life with an ostomy for the period of time that you had it, what was that like for you? So for your initial immediacy was fear, like, you know, well, very high levels of fear, very high levels of emotion. But what was it like looking down and looking at this ostomy once it started to function? Let's go from once it started to actually work for you. Like how did that feel? And was it off-putting for you? Were you discouraged by the sight of it? Did it make you feel different about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, hate is a really strong word, but yeah, I hated it. I hated it, and I probably hated my body with it. And I thought to myself, oh right, okay then, well, I can't do anything about it. I'll just hide it, you know, I'll just ignore it and I'll hide it. And I think to a certain extent, I don't know. I was all right if nobody knew about it, and then I was okay if I couldn't see it, like in my clothes. And I know you can't see it, but I mean, you know yourself that you can feel it and you know it's there. And I didn't mind. So my first surgery. So I've had 3 surgeries. My first surgery gave me an end ileostomy. And the end ileostomy was, I didn't have many problems with it or troubles with it. But it wasn't until I had my second surgery, when I had my J pouch created and I had a loop ileostomy, that it just gave me so much trouble with leaks, with really damaged skin, with blockages. Gosh, I was in and out of hospital with blockages. And because of that continual burning, and because of all of the leaks, and because, you know, like I went through a period where, like, if I had a leak on my clothes, I would have to throw the clothes in the bin, because I felt dirty and I felt just disgusting, you know. And I think, I don't know if I ever got over that, if I'm honest with you.
But I know it's a very natural thing to feel, particularly, you know, you didn't plan on this. This is something that was thrust upon you by the gods or the whatever's life. And yeah, it's a very embarrassing thing. And actually, I'll be honest with you, my end of the ostomy was the best part of my ostomy life, shall we say. I actually, you know, I had a really good functioning time with an end ileostomy. I had minimal impact on my day-to-day, very comfortable. Output was reasonable, but I didn't experience any bag leaks, didn't experience any. Yeah, to be fair, like during that period, I was back in the gym. I was training at.
Me too. I was swimming.
Definitely. But then for the loop ileostomy, like you mentioned, that's when I first experienced bag leaks. That's when I first experienced. Like, I had a blockage in hospital after my first thing. Every surgery, immediately within the first week, I would have a stall, or I'd need an IG tube. But the loop ileostomy, that was a different thing altogether. That was just like you experienced bag leaks.
They don't prepare you for it.
No, they don't. But well, the other thing is, you're talking about your surgery time. So your first surgery was abnormally long because of severe complications, which again, it's scary in its own right. And I feel for your mum. But the second surgery for me, I didn't realize that it was going to be that long. I don't know whether or not I maybe just didn't pay attention when I was having my consultation. But I went in, and it was nearly, I'm pretty sure it was like a 10-hour surgery or something crazy.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, mine was very, very like up to those kind of 9.5, 10 hours, and and I had a lot of complications there as well. They had to like cut me open, so I've got a cesarean scar from that. And sorry, I've totally just like jumped in on your story. Sorry.
Not at all. We're here to talk about you. But yeah, I didn't expect that surgery to be that long, and I woke up because my mum and my girlfriend at the time, I told them, I'll be about 4 hours, and I was like,
fine.
They'll be worried. It's like trying to get out of the hospital bed, and like at that point you can't even feel your legs and stuff like that.
You can't even move.
Yeah. So what turned around for you? Did you mentioned that you didn't really feel you ever sort of overcame those feelings about your ostomy. Looking back now, is there a way you feel you could have found a way to improve your feelings? Like what do you have concerns if you're told that you have to go back to an ostomy? And what does that make you feel like potentially now, that thought?
I don't know. I think if I had to go back to an ostomy, then I would have to go back to an ostomy for a very real reason, and again, it would be, if I'm very poorly with my J pouch, or I have like pouchitis, or if there's a leak or there's a damage, so gosh, and I would probably wait until the very last moment again, so that it wasn't an option for me, and then when it finally happened, then I would be thankful, because essentially, I'm saying that I hated my body, but it gave me like a lease of life. It gave me it got rid of an illness and gave me another opportunity to live. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but it gave me a better life than what I was leading. And I think through the whole journey, and the backwards and forwards to hospital, finding out about myself, developing my emotions and my strength as a person, I think if
Well, I think your earbuds might have just gone. That's okay. If you change your mic settings on the computer to you should have a mic inbuilt.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. So I think if I went back to the hospital and they said, look, you've got no other option, then you have to have an ostomy, then I would accept it, because you don't have any other option. And it's not the end of the world. It's definitely not the end of the world. It might feel like it at different stages, but you know what? You learn to adapt and you overcome. And I wouldn't have a loopy ileostomy. I would have another endoileostomy. And I think the reason why I hated it so much was because of the bag leaks and because of the skin irritation. And just for anybody that's listening, an endoileostomy is far easier because all of the waste that kind of like goes into the bag. But if you've got a loopy ileostomy, sometimes where the opening, let's say, of your small intestine, it's very close to your skin. So if it's very close to your skin, then the waste kind of like will go onto your skin, and then it'll make the adhesion of the ostomy bag come away, and that's why you get the leaks. But whilst this waste is touching your skin, it's also burning your skin, and agony, it's sore, like, and it can become like real bad problems. So, you know, it's not the end of the world if my consultant was to tell me you have to go and have your ostomy again. I would still have my life, and I would still have my journey, and I would still be me. But I can truthfully say I don't want it.
I think that's again a very valid opinion to have. Like, your experience with it possibly hasn't been the best. Did they at any point start to talk to you about women's health and the impact that this may have on you as a woman with regards to like your period cycle, your menstrual cycle, and potentially having children and things like that? Was that ever discussed with you, and how did that make you feel?
So I had two very frank conversations with one with my consultant and then one with a surgeon, who were really informative and really quite nice. And you know, there was talk about initially when I first spoke about surgery, I was like given some information about freezing my eggs. But I think because I was in denial, I didn't acknowledge it, and I thought, oh no, it's fine. And you know, I don't know if if maybe I would, if I had more time to consider it, would I have taken that option? Because I think the statistics are, you know, somebody with UC, your fertility is, or infertility, sorry, let's say infertility, is increased by 15%. And if you've had a J pouch and you've had all the surgery, your infertility, is increased by 50%. Now, I know that I've got a lot of scar tissue down there because I've had so many complications. I know that where they've sewn the J pouch is against my vaginal wall. I know that around that area there's potentially going to be scar tissue that has affected my like fallopian tubes. And you know, that's that's quite a big thing to take on. I'm not saying that I'm the most maternal person in the world. You know, I've never been maternal, but to have that choice taken away from you is a different matter. You know, and for some, and I think for somebody that's maybe in the process of having children, or that they're desperate for children, you know, when your consultant is talking to you about freezing your eggs, like, you shouldn't even be giving it a second thought. So yeah, and then I had a really horrible conversation with another woman, and it's been my only negative experience actually, and maybe she was just having a bad day, I don't know, but it was a nurse that I saw, and you know, it was in between surgeries, and I was saying to her that I was going forward for a J pouch surgery because, you know, to have it reversed, that's a decision that you can take or you can leave. You don't have to have the J pouch, you don't have to have the reversal. It's not right for everybody. But this lady said, "Oh, what are you even having a J pouch for? You know, you're just, it's going to fail in 15 years time, and you know, you won't be able to have children, you know." And I just thought, oh my goodness me. So I just kind of listened to what she had to say, and then walked out of the consultant room and said, oh gosh, she must be having a bad day. And didn't really take any notice of what she said. But yeah, I remember the surgeon kind of looking at me and talking to me about the risks of infertility, and you know, the future adhesions and the lesions, and yeah, I think, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one that not only as a disease just popped out of nowhere, it's taken one of your large organs. It's then manipulated another one of your organs, and then it's potentially got an impact, a continual impact on the rest of your life. You know, like if I'm 36. As I get older, I'm probably going to become more infertile anyway, and then I've already got only half a chance of conception. Yeah, it's life. I suppose it's life, and you know, I'm here and I'm alive, and I'm just really grateful for that. Really, given everything.
I think, you know, considering everything that has been going on, that's a very positive outlook to have. It certainly is a big thing to be told. I remember we had a conversation, or my surgeon and I had a conversation, and I ended up putting some sperm into a sperm bank just in case. And thankfully, nothing was wrong with me. But for males, I think we, as seems to be through nature, have the easier end of the stick, or the lighter end of the sticks, or the cleaner end of the stick, whatever way you look at it, in terms of the complications post surgeries. Like one of the things I remember hearing about is where the pelvic wall starts to collapse because you've had your intestine removed, which means that things like carriage of a baby to term become very complicated, and cesareans tend to be the main option that is available. You tend not to be allowed to have a natural birth, or at least it's consultant led. Check me out. I'm like a
no, and you're having these you're having this conversation with me, and oh gosh, I don't know if you found this, but you know what, the nurses, the IBD nurses, that if you get one or two and then you just hold on to them, don't you? And they're just wonderful, wonderful people. But yeah, after I had my takedown, was it my takedown? Not my takedown, my J pouch. And again, there was bloody complications. And, you know, I've already got a cesarean scar. There's already like scar tissue there. So yeah, so a natural birth is out of the question. And yeah, you're so right, where that vaginal wall does start to collapse because it's not got its organs like surrounding it. So yeah, you're so right, like, and what you're saying. So these are all like huge risk factors that you have to, you know, would I even be able to take a child to full term? And do I want to put myself through that? Or do I want to put my partner through that? Do I want to put a baby through that? You know, yeah. I don't know. There's a lot.
Definitely, there's so many deep questions. I don't think I don't think you could ever potentially get to the resolute answer. I think there would always be a question mark over it, even if you were to decide to have a child. Like I've had 2 children now, and I continuously question, is this thing because of that? Is this because of it? I mean, I'm sure that's completely normal as a parent, but it's just one of the random things. Like, if they were to start developing symptoms, I may weirdly blame myself for them developing those symptoms. There's lots of different things as well. Like, both children had complications at birth. One more severely than the other, both healthy and completely fine now. But again, you're like going, oh, is this because of, do you know what I mean? And it's like, both those instances have got nothing to do with Crohn's disease, nothing to do with the male of the species. And I am still sat there going, is it because of my Crohn's? Is it because I've had a J pouch?
Yeah. Yeah, you'll start to blame yourself. I mean, my mum's also got an autoimmune disease. And that was actually brought on through, not through conception, but like at the same time as having me, you know, and my mum's now thinks that she's got Addison's disease, which is an autoimmune disease, but it's not linked to Crohn's disease. It's not linked to ulcerative colitis. You know, my mum's blaming her and saying, well, I got poorly the same age as you got poorly when I was carrying you, Elizabeth. What if you're going to get even more poorly? And I have to think, gosh, but you cannot think like that. You know, I think when you're presented with having a life-changing disease, you know, and for some people it's a life-limiting disease, but I like to kind of say that it's just, for me, it's life-changing. It's not limited me as a person. It's not going to limit my life. It's significantly changed my life, and it's changed me as a person in a number of different ways. And maybe going forward in life, will have changed certain aspects, but it's not going to limit what I do in life. And you know, I think that's been such a kind of strong driver for me through all of this, right from seeing the blood in the toilet for the first time until today when I'm sat here. You know, I refuse to allow my illness to limit what I want to do in life. And you know, and if later on down the line I do want children and I can't conceive, or I can't have one, or whatever, you know, that there's other options out there. So it's not going to stop me doing the things that I would like to do, if that makes sense. There's always other options. There's always other options for things, including having an ostomy, not having an ostomy. You know, the most important thing is that you're living the best life, or the best quality of life that you can, managing the cards that you've been dealt.
I think that's really important. I really like your take on it there, that it's life-changing, not life-limiting, and that it's us ourselves, you, myself, me, myself, and I, that set the limitations within that. You know, ultimately, life is still there to be seized with this disease. Whether we choose to find a way is the question. We've had a question come in from the bleachers from Philippa Trice. She wanted to know if you found a barrier cream that helped you with the leaks.
So I found quite a few things, but no, I tried kind of like talcum powders, and I tried like not talcum powders as in you buy Johnson's talcum powder. My stoma nurse was really great, and you know, she gave me lots of powders and lots of barrier creams. I changed the bags from like a very flat bag to a very, very deep convex bag. So it was, you know, you get different varying types of convexity, it's called. But if you want to talk about creams, I found that like after my J pouch, I had to use a barrier cream, you know, for my bum, and I can't even remember, Citra something or other. Can't even remember what it was called. Your stoma nurse will help you. But I don't have to use it anymore. I'm so shocked I don't have to use it. It's amazing. I'm not on any medication. I'm not using any creams. I'm not using any barriers. I'm not taking anything. It's wonderful. So So I would just if you are having leaks, it's very specific. The appliances and the products that are out there, it's very specific to your skin type and your body, and so yeah, just ask your stoma nurse, and you know, send away for free samples. You know, just try different things, contact the different pharmaceutical companies. I had lots of free stuff, and then I could pick and choose what worked for me and what didn't work for me. But yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's one of the huge advantages of living within the UK. And some of our listeners are over in America and things like that. Your healthcare systems are slightly different. But certainly in the UK with the NHS, getting down and seeing your stoma nurse as much as possible, particularly if you are experiencing difficulties. Forums are great, but they are in the know and are able to have that buying power to pull you towards stock. But one of the things that worked for me whenever I was going through that point was flange extenders. So it's just like, it's literally about a semicircle inch thick piece of sticky stuff that looks similar to the flange, and it just makes it a little bit bigger and has then for bigger footprints, therefore it's more adhesive. And then adhesive sprays, I'd spray that. But the ultimate thing that reduced my bag leaks, shall we say, was to just change the bag more frequently. So I would change the bag when it was full at that point, as opposed to emptying it or just emptying it. So I'd empty it, then I would change it. And then the other thing that I did with that was to regularly changing was increasing the irritation around the stoma. So I ended up having to use a lot more cream around there. But it was just a normal topical cream that I got from the stoma nurse. I don't know what brand it was.
Yeah, no, I know. Like, yeah, and I did try a few, but you know, just whatever they gave me seemed to kind of work really. But yeah, gosh, I changed my bag. Oh well, when I was towards the end, you know, I was changing it 3 times a day. It was a nightmare. Sometimes even more, 3-4 times a day. But at least
I got to a point where I would I don't know whether it was an addiction or whether it was something just being a weirdo. But I would flush my
oh yeah,
I would flush it with a water bottle. Yeah, so I'd flush it with. And if I could, I would do it with ice cold water. For whatever reason, that just felt really good. I don't think there's any scientific value to that whatsoever, but it seemed to work. The next question that I wanted to ask you was about intimacy during this period for you. I'm not sure if that's something you're comfortable talking about, but like, feel free if you don't want to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it.
No.
During that time, were you in a relationship through the whole process, or were you single during the process? And either way, how was that for you in terms of dealing with your libido? Did you feel that you could be with somebody or date somebody? What was there any sort of things going on there for yourself, or how did you deal with them?
So I was in a relationship when I was diagnosed. Let's just say that I'm not now. Pretty soon after I was diagnosed. And yeah, that's enough said about that. So that was in 2018, September 2018. And yeah, I've really struggled since to be in a relationship and to give myself to somebody. You know, I'm feeling so much better in myself when I don't have an ostomy. And you know, if I did have an ostomy again, I would seek some counselling, because I didn't want anybody near me. I really didn't. And I think maybe if I was in a different relationship, or maybe if I felt secure in my relationship, then it would be different if I did have an ostomy. But for me, for the whole period that you know I had an ostomy, so that's from April 2019 all the way up until kind of like now. So that's nearly 19, 20, 21. Yeah, 2 years. I haven't wanted anybody near me. And you know, that's been it's been quite a lonely period in my life. But I didn't want to, like, I knew that I was having surgery. I knew that at a stage I was going to have a J pouch, and I knew at a stage that I could kind of like open that final door, and I could walk through, and, you know, I could just leave my illness behind me. And, you know, and that's the kind of stage that I'm at just now. Whether or not I ever leave my illness behind me, and, you know, whether or not I go forward and I'm poorly again, but very much in that period of my life, I didn't want to start a new relationship because I didn't want the hassle of being ill. I didn't want anybody else to look after me. I didn't want anybody else near me. I didn't, you know, I barely even spoke with my closest friends about things, you know, like I barely allowed them to help me. And gosh, I'm so thankful that I've got wonderful, wonderful, wonderful friends that have supported me in the only way that I would allow them to support me. But, you know, I think maybe I am like I'm a strong and independent woman, and to allow somebody else to come into my journey, like halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, then it just wasn't an option for me emotionally. I just wasn't going to let it happen until I could fix myself, or I could fix the problem, or I could fix the way I thought about the problem. The problem wasn't really there, but it was there for me. Gosh, I'm waffling now, aren't I?
Not at all, not at all. I mean, I think the stuff that you're talking about is a lot of what everyone experiences within a relationship, you know, and at a point where you are at your most vulnerable, a relationship ended for whatever reason, and you know that can have significant impact. Ending a relationship at any point can have a significant impact on how you feel about yourself, and irrespective of what the reasons were behind it, we always doubt ourselves. We always, you know, question, was it me, irrespective of whether or not what the other person did. And, you know, add into that you're already feeling emotionally down about yourself. You're concerned about your physical appearance, potentially to attract another mate, and all those types of different things. And being very vulnerable at the same time, it's you know, I completely understand. Yeah, it's a big minefield, and we could dig down into the psychoanalytics of it and talk about your feeling of the need to fix and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's a very emotional period, very vulnerable, and having been in what you felt was a relationship prior that ended possibly because of, would certainly make you consider whether or not you would find value in entering into another arrangement to get more hurt. So totally.
Yeah. And you know, there's the whole kind of trust aspect, and you know, not only are you ill, not only is it an inconvenience to your life, you then start to think that it's going to be an inconvenience to somebody else's life. And you know, you don't want to be like, as a partner, you don't want to be an inconvenience to somebody. Like that's not what partnership's all about. So I think I just had that mindset that I just didn't want to be an inconvenience to anybody. And you know, I did have a lot of you know, I lost self-worth, and you know, a lot of self-esteem. And you know, you don't want to go into a relationship when you're feeling like that about yourself. But I also knew that it wasn't going to last forever. I also knew that I would come round in time as an individual. And I knew that I was, you know, I'm not going to stay single forever. But it just had to be, I think for the first time, it had to be on my terms. And I know that sounds incredibly selfish. And you know, I don't see myself as a selfish person, and I don't see myself as a selfish partner by any stretch of the imagination. But for the first time in my life, I had to be just selfish, and I had to do what was right for me. And, you know, whatever I felt, I had to do every day. And this isn't just with with a life partner. This is with my friends as well, you know, like I cancelled on my friends so much because I didn't have the emotional energy to be sociable. I didn't have the emotional energy to put myself continually outside of my house or outside of my safety zone to deal with maybe being fatigued or bag leaks or cramps or, you know, not being able to eat whatever it was that we were all eating, you know. So yeah, I had to become a little bit selfish and just say that no, it's not right for me. But I must admit, like now I'm in such I feel in a really, really strong place. And I'm not saying that that's because I don't have a bag attached to me, or I'm further along my IBD journey, let's call it. I'm a lot more focused on what's important to me. And I think because I've had that focus all along, that's kept me positive and that's kept me striving. And through more positive experiences and more self-belief in myself and believing in my body again and believing in my health again, then, you know, that's made me a happier person. And I'm now open to sharing my life again. Does that make sense?
I think that's a really beautiful place to be. I think what you're experiencing potentially now is that you've almost gone through a period of self-discovery, and you're now more tuned to who you are as an individual. You're more comfortable with who you are, or who you know yourself to be, and therefore, you know, there's the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you know, you've had to spend this time filling your cup up so that you have something to pour into something else. And like you're saying about not having the energy, I think that's like comes with the territory of IBD. Like, I will regularly force myself to go out with certain groups. We call ourselves the Apostles, and there's a few of them that I hold more dearly, in a separate almost bubble to that as well. And they'll have socials, and I'll go. But genuinely, like between 11 and 1 a.m. in the morning, I am. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I can barely consume alcohol. Not that I can ever really drink.
You're lucky. Like 9 o'clock is bed.
I'm not even kidding. At 9 o'clock, I am ready to go, but I'll push through. And but from 11, I'd say I'm on that nosedive down, and it's like I'm not partying anymore. I'm just there in body. The guys tend to know, and you know, a couple of them just pick me up and move me about bars and stuff, and then I really appreciate actually that people still invite me out.
I know, exactly, because you've said no so many times, or you've got to a certain point in the night and you're like, oh God, I'm sorry guys, I need to go. Yeah, that's great.
So what would your advice be to somebody who's, for example, back at the 2018 Elizabeth? Like what would your advice be to that person?
Just, you know, consultants and doctors, and maybe not doctors, because my doctor didn't really pick up on what was wrong with me. It was my consultant, you know, and consultants haven't got to where they are without seeing multiple different patients, without going through multiple different, you know, professional stages in their careers, to sit there and look at you and say you need to consider surgery. So I think if I had my time again, I I would save myself a whole load of heartache and try and accept what the consultants are telling me, and just know that everything will be okay. Everything won't be okay if you ignore medical advice. Everything won't be okay if you decide not to take your prednisolone, or if you decide not to go for your infusions because you don't want to go through the infusion centre. You know, everything will not be okay if you have got a fundamental disease. And I think if I was back at that stage now, and if I was telling myself anything, I would just tell myself that it'll all be all right. Because I'm genuinely in disease or not, and maybe my disease is actually having IBD has influenced, the home I'm in just now, the job that I've got just now, the friends that I've made just now, having IBD is actually probably maybe improved my life in some strange, weird way, because it's altered my path. So I would just say to myself, look, just don't worry about it. Like, just be patient with yourself, listen to the doctors, take their advice, and just don't leave it until you're lying on a bathroom floor for the majority of the day and night thinking, my goodness me, has my bowel perforated? Am I even going to make it to the hospital? Because that's a scary place to be. Yeah.
Lie on a bathroom floor for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Not after a night out.
Yeah. And hey, I've been there, and it's not a good place to be. So I think that's some great advice for someone who is right at the start, really questioning everything, and it's a very scary period for anybody to be in, and there's a lot of unknowns. Which is why, eventually when you sometimes get a diagnosis, it is almost a relief, because it makes you feel, right, there's a course of action now that is open to me that wasn't there.
This pathway.
Yeah. We've reached a part of the show that I call the Three Truths. Eventually, I've robbed it off of a business podcast that I listen to by Lewis Howes. The way it works is the world is about to end, or your time within it is about to end for whatever reason. Everything you've ever created, everything you've ever done has disappeared, and people do not have access to it. What do you believe would be the three truths or three life lessons that you would leave for the world to learn from?
Wow. Gosh, three truths. Three things. I would encourage people to be open and honest. I think if you've got honesty and you can be open, you can then be realistic, and you can deal with anything if you've got open and honest people around you, or if you're open and honest with yourself. I would say give yourself a break. If your body's telling you something, it's telling you it for a reason. And I just say that grab every single opportunity that you can. If your gut is telling you to do something, it's ironic because I've not got half of my gut, but if your gut is telling you to do something, like, go with your gut instinct, and just grab every opportunity that you can that passes you by, and you think, oh, might give that a go, or oh, I might try that, or do you know what? Yeah, why not try it? Because I think over the past couple of years, I've been quite scared to do things for fear of maybe failing, or maybe not achieving something, or maybe even getting ill again. But if you don't know, if you don't try, you don't know. So yeah, that's the most important thing. Just grab every single opportunity that you can.
I think they're great. I really do think they're great. You know, honesty and openness, listening to your body, and taking opportunities. I think one of the interesting things with taking the opportunities, again, we talk about a fear of failure, and I've been doing a lot of random stuff on self-development with Tony Robbins and things like that. And one of the interesting things about that is this preoccupation we have with failing, and actually the biggest failure is not to try. Because anytime you try something, if you don't succeed, you learn.
You develop and you become. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, totally with you on that one. Definitely part of my journey at the minute to try more things. And you know, if the interest is there, what was the other one that I'm quite fond of? If I can't, then I must.
Yeah, and you must try. Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely, because and I really love what you said there. It's a journey. You know, nothing in life is stagnant. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what opportunity may be there tomorrow, but then it might not be there the next day. Or you don't know, you as a person, what you can and can't do. You know, so you just have to do anything and everything that you possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And this is another one is talking about the importance of now. That's proper Irish. That was the importance of now. As there we go again. Is that, you know, there's only so much that you can plan for the future. I'm not saying that you should be responsible and not think about the future, but you have no impact yet. You cannot predict it.
No, you
and
cannot.
The past, you cannot change the past. So the only thing you have within your realm of control or impact is now. That's all you can do.
Yeah, no.
I'd just like to take a wee moment to appreciate yourself, Elizabeth, for coming on to the show and sharing your journey. I mean, it's a very brave thing to do, and I really appreciate you taking the time this evening to join me on the podcast and talk and be so honest and open about your journey, taking that opportunity that presented itself, and not holding yourself back for fear of failing or disclosing something you weren't comfortable with. But no, honestly, I really appreciate it. And, you know, just doing what you're doing by putting yourself out there as an individual who is struggling or has struggled and has IBD will help so many people, whether you think about it or not. The stuff that you do on your social media, just little hashtags that you use, draw attention to other people that are struggling, and they can see you. And I really admire the strength of character that you've showed in coming through to where you are now. And it really does show how much self-work that you've had to go through just listening to your story tonight. And for you to be now where you are is a credit to yourself. And, you know, you should be really proud to have the outlook that you have now. I'm not saying that if you had a different outlook that you should be less proud, but where you are now is an amazing place, and it's amazing to witness it. So thank you so much for coming on.
No. Thank you, and thanks for you know broadcasting people's stories like this. You know, like I mean, I hate talking about myself, but I normalized my illness through listening to your podcast and getting on Instagram. You know, I used to scroll when I was in hospital, looking at other women, and you know, a few men, but mostly women. You know, and it was through social media platforms that I became more comfortable with myself. So yeah, no, thank you very much. Thank you.
That's an absolute pleasure. I'm just going to pop you off the screen now and just chat to the people at home. Okay, guys, so that's bringing us to the end of our show. I think you'll agree Elizabeth has been really brave in coming on and discussing her journey, and has shared some real emotional moments that hopefully some of you out there will have some empathy with. And if you're going through these things at the time or at this time, do not forget that you can reach out and you can talk. And if you want to DM me or DM Elizabeth, I'm sure we'll be able to get back to you and chat. And if you're not feeling comfortable with that, just get yourself out there and just look at the other forums and groups. people are out there and have gone before, and we've got experience with these things, and we can say with some level of certainty that you will be okay and everything will be all right. But without further ado, guys, that's the end of the episodes, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.